This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, you're encouraged to like and share them on Facebook. Howard Insurance in Port St. Lucie now presents The African American Scene with your host, Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. Haven't done this in a while, so we're going to have our African American Scene poll question for the evening. And during the course of the show, you can call in and register your vote. And at the end of the show, I will tell you the tally. Now, the question: do you think President Trump's behavior has been proper? Yes or no? And I'm not talking about Russia. I'm just talking about his behavior. I'm not talking about his richness. I'm talking about his behavior. Would you be okay if your son or daughter behave like him? Just give me your answer, yes or no. There's no right or wrong answer. Your opinion is yours.
And I've got a scoreboard here. I'll make a note of your selection, and at the end of the show, we'll tally it all up.
And that number is 340-1590. That's 340-1590. And let me tell you, last week it was announced Port St. Lucie is the fourth safest city of its size in the United States. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So kudos to Mayor Orvik and to our police chief, all possible because of their leadership. Hopefully the police chief's still not aggravated with me anymore, but I think he does a fine job. Okay. Here's my topic for tonight. I want to know what qualities you think make a good president. What qualities do you think make a good president? So I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys about that. I think that it takes someone tough, smart, and driven, and the ability to handle pressure to be a good president. But what do you think? I went out and I did some research and came up with some articles on what it takes to be a good president. But I welcome your thoughts. That number again is 340-1590. That's 340-1590. One of the things that, I'm just going to get into the things that I've identified from the article, and ultimately I will give you a conclusion of my own thoughts about what it means to be a good president. A president should have a good reputation. Good reputation is important for a president and his leadership. A president should have a very supportive spouse. That is something that is very important, because in that role, on occasion, with so many things that you cannot discuss, a good supportive spouse can be a confidant and allow you to, especially if she is fairly learned as well, or even just sometimes all we need is an ear for somebody to hear us when we're frustrated. A president should do what's right. A president should always do what's right. I think that is the bellwether mark of a good president. Here's one that is applicable if you're a CEO or manager of a large organization. You must build a strong staff. You have to hire people who have strengths which can cover your weaknesses. Now, that's a challenge for a lot of people. But if you look at any great CEO, they sometimes hire people who are much smarter than them on some issues. But you have to have the strength of character and confidence that if somebody knows more than you about a particular element of your business or a particular element of the government for which you put them in charge of, that's okay. That is all right. You should not, in an organization as large as the federal government, you should not think it necessary that you are the ultimate expert in every aspect of the United States government. That's ridiculous, that's moronic, and you shouldn't even be thinking that way. But you should be able to put people in those positions that can be effective. Now, that can be a real problem because some people are not strong enough or have enough confidence to have somebody in a position that's smarter than they are. But that, I think, is really important. Hiring people that have strengths that can really support some of your weaknesses. And I will tell you something else about that, too. Most people are not able to be honest about who they are and their weaknesses. If you ask somebody, one of my interview questions when I was on the corporate world and I was hiring assistant managers or supervisors, one of my key questions was, tell me your 3 greatest strengths, then tell me your 3 major weaknesses. Man, they could go fire off those strengths in a minute. Bing, bang, bang. And the weaknesses, oftentimes they sat there in silence. But what they didn't know is those people that sat there and couldn't tell me their weaknesses, they ruled themselves out of a job with me. The people that could tell me their weaknesses, didn't matter what they are, it was that they had the confidence to tell me. Because let me explain to you why that was important to me. And anybody that's in management will understand this. If you're running a large organization, one of the things that you learn is that you cannot fix everything. I had 90 people in New York City, 3 assistant managers and 17 supervisors. You cannot know everything, and you cannot know everything that's going on. What you count on is somebody to tell you when something's wrong, because there was almost nothing I couldn't fix if I knew it was a problem. The real issue for me was when somebody made a mistake and they tried to hide it. That's usually when it blew up into an atomic bomb. But if you would tell me, boss, I screwed this up, blah, 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 I usually could fix that. So that's why I say that is really important. Perseverance. Lord, that is such an important attribute for a president. you have to be able to continue to push an item even in the face of great criticism, such as times that President Obama has had to face and such as President Trump's had to face. He's had to push issues that were receiving a lot of criticism. So, but that's an issue that you really need to have perseverance. And you have to be able to see the big picture. Not just what's in front of you. Can you see what's down the road, or can you see when I make this move, and this is the important part of understanding the big picture. If I make this move because this solves an immediate problem that bothers me, what is the total scope of what happens when I make that move? Are you capable of seeing the big picture, or are you short-sighted and can only see what's in front of you? And again, that poll question is, do you think the president's behavior has been proper? And that number again is 340-1590. That's 340-1590. So what do you think about what I've been saying about what it takes to be a good president? Do you have some thoughts? These are things that I picked up from some of the reading that I did by some of the scholars who have talked about some of the elements of what it requires to be a good president. Another is honesty. Really important, because as the leader of this country, people want to know, or should be able to feel, that what you tell them they can believe in, and that will go a long ways in getting you support for the people within the country. So honesty is very important. And again, the number is 340-1590. Another aspect, calmness. If you are president, you must be calm. That means you can face any kind of disaster and handle it in a manner that is calm and does not show any kind of stress. Like one of the great stories that I heard from the 49ers when they were in the Super Bowl, they said that Joe Montana walked in the huddle and they were playing the game and they were down by a touchdown. And Joe said to his teammates, he said, "Look over there. You see John Candy over there?" And his teammates all thought he was like nuts. But the point of the matter was, Joe was showing at that moment, while everything was on the line, that he was still calm. Now, for all you Obama haters, I have to tell you that was one of the attributes that attracted me to Obama. Not the fact that he was black. It was the fact that he demonstrated to me that he could be calm under pressure. And as a person that played sports, I could appreciate the fact that when everything's on the line, that the leader is going to still be able to maintain composure to help you get to the ultimate goal, which is a victory over the other team. And I saw that in him, and which is the same thing, I think, which caused him a lot of criticism because people saw his calmness and his ability to stay cool under fire as weakness. Well, if you remember, and I still think about this in utter amazement, the press dinner that he had that night where he was cracking jokes, they had already made a decision to go after Osama bin Laden, and they were in the process of doing that, and he was up there cracking jokes, and he was as calm and cool. And the next day when they announced that they killed him, I thought to myself, my goodness, under all that pressure, he was able to maintain that kind of calm. But by the same token, his lack of being more demonstrable, people felt that maybe he was weak because he was not demonstrative. So, and we got Winnie on line one. Yes, Winnie.
How you doing?
Okay.
Cliff, and how you doing, Rudy?
Good.
Good. About you said something last week about Milano.
Yes.
Obama, he won, man.
Yes.
His mother white, his daddy black.
Yeah, he's a mulatto, yes.
Milano, there's a lot of them out there. And he about one of the cool presidents that we ever had. Cool, and, he didn't get, they pressured him so bad, but he just took it calm and cool and collect. He about one of the best president that we ever had in that kind of category. But look like the Donald, like he gonna try to run for 2020, huh? He's still there. He ain't going nowhere.
Okay, but the game's not over yet. We'll see.
That's not
We'll
so
see.
you're not giving up.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not giving up. But I think the jury is still out. I think. Listen, they like to say that it was a witch hunt and that none of this really mattered. There was 32 indictments. 32 indictments. If you got 32 indictments in your administration, even if they didn't indict you, I tell you what, there's some issues floating around there for sure. So now I will admit there is nothing that says that he personally did anything wrong as of this point. And we have to accept that. I won't be like other parties that refuse to accept the information. If they prove when the report is released that he's done nothing, then he's done nothing, and we should move on.
What about Joe Biden? These ladies coming out talking about he did a appropriate kissing or touching or something, and they talk about they didn't like that, Mm-hmm. They say he might go put his name in the hat for 2020, might go run against Donald Trump. But them ladies, they coming out talk about them things about him. But I saw that on TV, like he kissed the lady on the back of her head, like he kissed her hair. I said, well, I don't see nothing wrong with that. But, these days the time, you really can't touch nobody and give them a handshake. Give them no handshake. They say hi, thank you. You can't really touch it.
Let me tell you something, Winnie. Let me tell you how much that, if we have a tradition in our church at the start of the service, there usually is a point at which they play the music and we get up and we greet each other.
Right, great.
And usually I walk around and kiss my church sisters on the cheek. And they give me now I'm thinking to myself, Lord have mercy. Maybe I better not do that anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe somebody will get the wrong idea about it. And we do that every Sunday. You get up and you say, hi, sister, and you give them a hug. I don't know.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And they're not allowed to do that no more either.
I know.
They'll
Yeah.
carry on to assault, and just crazy.
Yeah.
And everything, and the people don't hardly like to give a hug no more.
I know.
Like old fashioned hug. People don't hardly like to do that no more. So you can't hardly greet nobody.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And
Winnie.
we'll be talking. Have a
Yes.
good night.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling. My faithful listener. And we got Steve. Steve, how are you?
Hey, Rudy.
Yeah.
I've had better times,
Okay.
and haven't had a chance to listen to you since I gave you that last letter I gave you.
Yeah.
But I'm just listening to you tonight, and I found it interesting. I think you're not getting a whole lot of calls on the characteristics of the president.
Uh-huh.
But we've had some pretty bad presidents that had some pretty bad characters over the years too. So that's and some of them have done, like Teddy Roosevelt, and some of the things have done pretty great things in office too. But I found it interesting that you were on your survey, about the things that you thought if they would answer the question, what are your weaknesses? So I was just interested. What would you consider your weaknesses, and I'll give you mine.
No. I keep telling you all the time. Whose radio show is this?
Okay, let me give you mine then. I'll give you mine then. It's your radio show. It's your radio show. Fine. And actually, let me give you what my weaknesses I think are. I think that I can convince people with facts. That's kind of a weakness of mine.
That's a weakness, convincing
It is
people?
a weakness because most people are not concerned about facts. I expect people to be honest and responsible, in their own self-evaluation, and that's really hard. Like you said, people don't really like to evaluate themselves. It's hard to see yourself in a mirror, and sometimes that's a problem for me. And I actually don't take criticism well from people that I don't. Well, people that think they know everything, because that's so. I would say those are probably my three faults. So, it makes it hard sometimes to talk to people.
I didn't hear any faults except for the last one. The first two were statements.
Yeah.
They weren't faults. They were statements.
Well, no, because it drives me. It drives me in a way that I am stirred stronger, and to people that actually will turn away. So that's and they don't listen anymore. So,
but you said that one of your weaknesses are that you are able to convince people about what it is that you think, and you think that that's a weakness.
Yeah, but I can use facts. And I was thinking about this for a little while. Last week I heard you, and you kind of you offered your soapbox challenge. On your issue that really pisses you off, as you said, about the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, nobody really would call in, and nobody did call in when they were going to talk to you about that. And I would like to challenge you on it, but no. And I know your mind is already played up. I know that you think you have the facts to make your decision, but I'll challenge you on that with a couple of stipulations, and that is that you will not engage.
You're doing it again.
Yeah, but I don't want you to engage in insults because you have the.
You can't. You can't do that. If you want to challenge me, challenge me. You don't get a chance to make the rules. I make the rules.
Very, very simple rules. You will agree with these.
Well, no. You're not understanding me. You don't get to make the rules. If you want to challenge me, challenge me.
But the rules being that you don't make any insults, which that's a pretty good rule, right? I don't insult you. You don't insult me. And that we answer some questions honestly that are fair questions about the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
Are those two fair? Is that fair?
I can live by that. But I don't call you names anyway. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Well, actually, you have in the past.
Okay.
Okay. The fact one that has an effect on the Affordable Care Act is that the population of the United States is 327 million people. The proponents of the ACA Act say it will repeal about 133 million people who lose their coverage. That's approximately 40% of the United States population. Do we consider that a fact?
Keep talking.
Okay, you'll agree then it's a fact.
Keep talking.
Then a fair question would be, if that's the case, what percent of the 133 million could afford catastrophic coverage insurance?
That's not.
Do you think you have an answer that you could give me on that? Because I've tried to find one. I cannot find one.
No, there is no answer. But catastrophic insurance is what you had prior to the ACA.
Absolutely, but they could afford that.
Okay, well, no, they couldn't, because bankruptcy rates were the highest in healthcare than anything else prior to the ACA. So that catastrophic insurance did not afford you the protection that you needed to keep you from getting into financial trouble.
Okay, but again, there is a percentage of people that could afford catastrophic insurance. I don't know what it is. I'm assuming you don't know what it is either. Then the next question, which is a fair and reasonable question, is what percentage of the 133 million do not think they need the coverage?
Do you know the answer to that?
I do not. That's why I'm asking you. You've made up your mind. I want you to make up my mind, because I think these are fair questions that we need to answer.
Well, I don't understand. Well, let me put it to you like this. There is, I hear where you're going with this. You're trying to say that you don't see why people who don't need or don't want health insurance should have to be involved in the system.
That's not where I'm going. I want to know the percentages, because I want to make a fair and balanced decision that's informed on the facts, not on assumptions. That's all I want.
Well,
and you've made up your mind that the ACA Act is affordable and it is workable, and that it is a good thing. I'm trying to find out the answers on why you think that.
Oh, okay. Well, now I can give you the answer to that, why I think that. Why do I think the Affordable Care Act is a good thing? Oh, easy. I can give you all the answers to that.
Okay.
Prior to the Affordable Care Act, there was caps on the amount of coverage that one could have under their health insurance policy. Those caps range between $1 million and $2 million. In today's world, $1 million for health insurance, so you had a lifetime cap of $1 million. That's nothing. One major illness, you blew through that cap like it was standing still.
Absolutely.
Prior to the Affordable Care Act, if you had a pre-existing condition, you couldn't get coverage because the companies didn't want to accept that risk. Okay? Prior to the Affordable Care Act, if you were a poor child and you couldn't see, and I got this from my teacher friends, and there was plenty of those, the Affordable Care Act requires you to provide dental and vision coverage for any child under 18. What I found from my teacher friends is frequently there are kids, young kids, that can't see, and their parents don't have the money to get them glasses. So they could go through school with horrible grades, and the only problem they had was they couldn't see. That's the third
I agree
thing.
I agree
let
that.
me finish. Now
No,
you asked
let
me. Let me lay it on you now.
But
Let
you're
me
not
lay
laying it on me.
I'm gonna lay it on you. I'm gonna tell you why we should do this. I'm gonna tell you. You asked me. I'm gonna tell you. The other thing was the Affordable Care Act, contrary to what most people think,
I
most
don't
people
wanna know
think
the
that
conditions.
Affordable Care Act was insurance. It was not. What the Affordable Care Act did was set up some parameters of what insurance companies must offer if they're going to provide insurance. They require that 80% of all premiums collected must go back to the clients for which they serve. That was part of the program. It also
80%.
required
Okay.
10 essential benefits. It actually did not write the insurance policies.
Yeah.
It just basically said that if you're going to sell health insurance, you must follow these guidelines. That's it.
Okay. Okay,
And
well, then let's-
and then finally,
then
let me finish. And then finally, I'm going to tell you, there is no reason on this earth that the richest country in the history of the world cannot provide health insurance for its people.
Okay.
Now you
That
got my
brings
answer.
me to question number 2. And the fact is, in the ACA, since the ACA cannot function without paid workers or a bureaucratic structure and its services it provides, our national debt now is at $27 trillion, which equals to $80,360 per citizen of the United States. Fair question is, what will the expenditures for this bureaucracy and services have a direct effect on our national debt? Will it have an effect on our national debt?
If it was left up to me, it wouldn't.
Well, okay, you would say no.
I would say
Then-
no.
then
'Cause
since-
if you let me put it together, no, would not have an effect on our
Okay,
national
well,
debt.
that'll bring me to my third question, which you will get the answer. Since the ACA was not pushed through as a bill, but as a tax, what percentage of an individual's income should be taxed, and at what amount does it become unsustainable? So if it's a tax, what percentage of a person's income should go towards, because it's going to be a tax now, to go to this Affordable Care Act, which is a tax act? How much percentage do you think you could live with, or the system would work, and that a person would be provided with a health care?
Well, that's a ridiculous question.
No, it's not.
Yes,
Because
well, let me finish.
Okay.
That's a ridiculous question, but what I would suggest that we would do is not necessarily make it a tax. What I would do is, like we did years ago with the voluntary presidential contribution, I would propose that we have a byline on our income tax form that everybody make a donation of $25 or $50. I have done that test
Okay.
myself, and I have had people tell me that they would give $200 to help their fellow citizens have health insurance.
fine.
Now, let me ask you a question.
No, wait before you-
No. You keep forgetting it's my show. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think that we should help our American people have health insurance?
Of course I do, but that doesn't mean that we have to have a federal bureaucracy that has not run itself efficiently up to this place, and will probably not run as efficiently because it's a bureaucracy. It takes money in. Also, it provides service. Also, in that bureaucracy, we're creating people that are going to go on retirement, people that it's going to have to sustain itself, just like the Social Security and all that other stuff. But my point was, Rudy, is there has to become a percentage that we have to be able to work with, even if people would donate so much, because that's a figure. What you're using there as a figure is something that's imaginary. It's nothing that we can work with. We can't put it in the budget.
We can.
It's not a definite.
Yes, we can.
No, it's not a
Yes, we can.
definite.
But first thing I would do is I would eliminate the tax cut that we just gave all the rich people, who which is money that could be used to help support the Affordable Care Act. And now let me just explain to you why that's important. The patriotic millionaires. This is the fastest moving situation in this country I've seen in a long time. The patriotic millionaires, who are rich people, that are saying it is ridiculous, we're not paying enough taxes, and we have to support the cost of infrastructure and taking care of our country, and they need to charge us more money. And if you don't believe me, go out on the internet and look up Walt Disney's daughter, who did a video suggesting that there be a tax on anybody who makes over $10 million. That's not Rudy Howard saying that. That's not a poor person saying that. That's not somebody on welfare saying that. That's a rich person saying that.
Okay, but again, it's a subjective point of view, which you do not have any real numbers that is going to affect it. We could maybe take all the money away from the rich, but you don't have objective numbers that we need to provide what you're talking about.
Can be done. That can be done. But
it can be done.
Coming,
okay,
you're coming. I'm gonna have to cut you off. I got other calls.
Yeah, but let me.
Go ahead.
Our federal government
I'm gonna
has
give you
a
1
federal
minute,
budget of 2018. The federal budget, 27% of that goes to Medicare and health care. 33% goes to Social Security. 15% goes to the national debt. That's just the interest on the national debt. Well, no, that is the national debt. 15% goes to the national debt. 8% goes to the interest on that debt. That means we're right now at 83% of the total budget of 2018. So there's fair questions here, Rudy. We have already seen an increase in premiums and deductibles and Affordable Care Act. What percentage of our budget pie are we going to take the money away from? We've got to take it from
I already told you that. I would take, let me tell you, easy. That money could so easily be found. First of all, let me say this. Wait a minute. Let me just explain to you. A budget is a statement of what you think you want your country to be. That is what a budget is. So a budget has priorities in it of what you think is important to the people within the borders of your country. So it's easy for me, because since we spend more money on defense than the next 10 countries combined, I could easily take some money from defense to help my American people be healthy. That's a real simple. That is a no-brainer. I gotta let you go, because I got other callers here. Yes, and we got Steve. I'm sorry, Steve. Steve?
It's the other Steve there.
Yeah.
He's there.
Yeah, Steve?
I think he set his phone down.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sort of like a common thing that happens.
Do we have another call there?
Now, there's another guy on there, and his name is Gary, and Gary's with us right now.
Okay, all right. Gary, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Rudy. How are you doing today?
Okay.
My question is, well, there's two questions, really.
Okay.
What would you consider is the richest state in the United States of America? Per capita.
I'm going to guess. It would be a guess. I don't know the answer to that. Do you know the answer to that?
California.
Okay.
And what did California do last year? What did they vote down because they couldn't afford it?
I don't know. You tell me.
Universal health care.
Okay.
So if California, the richest state in the country, can't afford universal health care for everybody, I would dare to say that they've probably got as many millionaires there as New York or some place like that. even taking extra money off of millionaires, I think the bill for healthcare over a 10-year period was somewhere in the region of $20 trillion just for California.
That was the projected cost?
So I don't know how.
Well, let me ask you this, Gary.
How paying $25 or $50 as a voluntary deduction on your tax form is going to pay for health care for everybody in the country.
Okay, well let's make a.
And I don't think taking, taxing millionaires who make more than $10 million extra.
Well, Gary, let me raise
the money that you want.
Okay, let me ask you this, okay? Because I get that question a lot of times. Do you pay property taxes?
I do.
Okay. Do you have kids in school?
I don't.
Have you ever had kids in school?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So you're still paying property taxes for somebody else's kids, but you don't have kids in school. Do you
Correct.
object to that?
No.
Why don't you object to that?
Because it's part of being a citizen of the United States.
Oh, so it is part of being a citizen of the United States to pay property taxes to help other people go to school, but it's not okay for you to have to pay costs to have somebody else have health insurance.
I didn't say that.
I know what I'm just asking.
No. I think it is absolutely disgusting that, and I'll give you, for instance, I had a colleague at work, and he took ill. He was about 56, 57 years old, and he took ill and took time off from work because of his illness. And his daughter called me about 3 months after and said, can you come and see, can I meet you? And I said, okay. So I went to meet her. And he was foregoing his medication so that he could put food on the table for his daughter and her grandbaby.
Okay.
Now, that's disgusting.
It is.
But, the problem is we can't, with the current medical system, we can't afford to give everybody free health care.
Well, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be free. The Affordable Care Act didn't give everybody free health care.
Well, no, it put everybody's premiums up.
No, that wasn't the design to make everybody's premiums go up. I'm going to tell you, there was a revolt by the insurance industry. They got very pissed off because they could no longer sell you policies where they could collect money and not pay you anything. So What did they do? They decided to pull out of markets, and I'm going to get myself in a lot of trouble here. They decided to pull out of markets and eliminate the opportunity to sell insurance in various places, putting the pressure on the legislature to come up with something that would give them back the flexibility they had to make more money. That's the reality. Nobody's going to say that, but that's what's real. That's the real bottom line.
Right.
And I will even say the law required that 80% of all the money they collected on premiums go back to the patients. Now,
I know. You and I have had this discussion online before.
Yeah. Well, maybe it shouldn't be 80%. Maybe it should be 70% or 65%. Give them some flexibility. But the bottom line is it's very affordable. It's easy. That thing could be fixed, the Affordable Care Act, if people had the willpower and they stopped playing politics. You could fix it in 48 hours with some intelligent people in a room, could come up with some options that would make it work.
You know, there's a city called Washington, D.C. with 450 non-intelligent people there.
Yes, right. Well, thank you, sir. I got some other calls coming in.
All right, buddy. Good to talk to you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, bye.
I've got I've got a weakness.
Okay.
It's a really bad quality too. It's honesty.
Yes, I hear you. Yes.
It's honest. Honesty can be a bad value. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, you know what? Steve actually proved my point. When you ask people to talk about their weaknesses, that is a really, really hard thing.
Don't you agree though that that honesty can be a weakness?
Honesty can be a weakness. No, I don't think honesty.
Well, do you really think I care what everybody else thinks?
I think your tongue can be a weakness, and listen, I will tell you that there's one of my weaknesses I've worked very hard on, especially in the last 20 years of my life, not saying everything I think, because that is a weakness, and that can get you in trouble. And it has gotten me in trouble for saying, because sometimes you just don't need to say anything. You just need to just listen.
Sometimes things are better left unsaid.
Yes, they are much better left unsaid. But anyway, but we had some interesting dialogue there. But listen, I'm telling you, and Steve and Gary.
There was another Steve that was trying to get through, but the first Steve kind of hogged. What, 3/4 of the show? and with question after question after countless question after question that didn't make any sense. They didn't make any sense to half the folks listening in. It's just that let's see what Rudy Howard doesn't know by just throwing out. It's like he might as well be asking questions about quantum physics.
Yeah, well, he does that, and you know, my fault on that is to let him go too long, but you know the point that I do, and this is something I need to fix, is I don't want him to think I am fearful of anything he has to say. I can handle anything that he has to say. Yeah. I have no problem whatsoever, but I need to cut him off because I should not allow him to go so long.
Maybe we ought to limit it to one question or one comment per call.
Yeah, right.
Because question.
How we doing on our poll question?
Well, actually, we can talk about it now because I've been polling everybody on the phone, and, well, there was a couple staunch no's, but there were actually more yeses. There were 3 yeses and 2 no's on tonight's show.
Okay.
Do you think that President Trump's behavior has been proper? And the 3 to 2, yes over no, 3 to 2. But that doesn't mean it still doesn't find truth. You know what I mean? You can take all the polls you want. Okay, according to a recent poll on WPSL, everybody thinks that Trump's behavior has been proper. That's the way it'd be reported on TV usually.
Yes.
You know how they do that.
That would be Fox News, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because, there's a difference. The big difference, though, between CNN and Fox is the viewership. That I found out that there's a local TV station in West Palm Beach that has far more viewers than CNN. Just one TV station in West Palm. But don't forget, you've got cable, you've got, you got your DTTV now, digital television. But anybody want to chime in on that one last time? Do you think Trump's behavior has been proper? The winners tonight are yes, so I guess it's been perceived as proper for the majority of those who answered the poll.
Yeah, proper, yeah.
You got to be careful how we say the majority of those who participated in the poll.
Yes,
because if you say a majority thinks so, they're going to think the majority of all the people think that.
No, yeah, we had a grand total of 5 people that voted, so yeah.
Yeah, and be careful when you answer a poll or when you hear a report of what a poll says, there might have only been 5 people that answered it, and you have to divide it up into a percentage. You could only go as far as maybe in increments of 20%, with only 5.
Yeah.
So remember that when you hear a reported poll, actually we could turn this around if we wanted to, because so few people participated in the poll, we could say that the answer was no. Because had more people participated, then maybe more may have said yes, but you never know.
Well, I'm gonna sidetrack on this last couple of minutes here, And I was talking to Steve about this Patriotic Millionaires. This movement is moving so fast, it's blowing my mind. They're throwing the trickle-down theory in the trash can, because these patriotic millionaires, and believe me, folks, don't take my word for it. Go to the website, patrioticmillionaires.com, and you will hear rich people telling you that the inequality in our system is out of control and it has to be fixed. It's their statement. It's not poor people on welfare getting welfare checks telling you this. This is rich people telling you that the system is broke and it needs to be fixed. And part of the fix needs to come because they need to make a more fair and equitable contribution to the system. That has given me so much hope, because I've been beating the drum about this for about 3 to 4 years, about the inequality in the system. And now, all of a sudden, we have these people stepping forward and admitting that it's a problem. And I thank God for that. Because when you have people with their influence and their power making that statement, there's going to be a change. And the change really is for my granddaughter and my future grandkids. I'm okay. I'm at the end of the cycle. I'm going to be all right. I got health insurance. I got enough money to feed myself and live. But I'm concerned about my son and his children and my niece and my nephews and their kids. That's my concern. And we have to make it a much fairer place for people to be able to earn an income. And I see it happening, and I am so pleased and I am so proud of these people who could be so selfish, but they're not. And somebody sent me, and I'm going to just tell you one other thing, and then I'm going to get off of this, but somebody sent me a message the other day on Facebook from a guy who had just bought a plane. And he says in this take, he says, I just bought a plane, and I found out that I could write that plane off 100%. He said, that's not fair. This is him saying it. He said, it's not fair. If I can afford to buy a plane, why are you allowing me to write that off 100%? That makes no sense to me. Now, think about that for a second. He went out and bought a jet, a private jet, and then he can turn around and write it off 100%. And I looked into it. It's not illegal, and it's not against the law.
Wow.
But how about that, folks?
I bet if you bought a private jet, you'd have to pay some kind of taxes on that.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. But anyway, thanks for listening. God bless and be safe, and I'll see you next Wednesday right here for the African American Scene.
The African American Scene with Rudy Howard is presented each week at this time by Howard Insurance in Port St. Lucie. Archives of the show and the content of each show, including the calls, are archived on YouTube. Go to WPSLTV.com. It'll take you straight to our YouTube presence. Look for the African American Scene with Rudy Howard. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast, celebrating 25 years and counting.